When did you first go to sea, mate?
I went to the training ship Vindicatrix at the end of 1964, and I was 3 months there, pre-sea training, and I went to sea in 1965.
What was your first ship at sea?
The Auckland Star, Blue Star Line ship, general cargo, refrigerated ship.
Oh yeah, and how many in the crew on her, mate?
Oh, all up with the refrig engineers and fridge greasers, the whole lot. Probably about 60, 65, 70.
Shit, yeah. And what run was she on?
She was on what was known as the Colonial Run.
Yeah.
That was the UK continent, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, round the world trip.
Yeah, right. And how long did your trips usually take on there?
Well, 5, 6 months.
Yeah. On that one there, what was your leave system like?
You didn't get any leave. You got, for every Sunday you were at sea. Every Sunday you were at sea, you got a day's leave for every Sunday at sea. If you were in port on the weekend, well, if you could go away for 12 months and be in port every weekend, which happened on some ships, and you didn't get no leave. You got 1 day's leave for every Sunday at sea.
And what was your pay like on there?
I was deck boy on that ship, and I was on, I can't remember now, but it was about 30 bob, £1.10, about £6 a month, $12 a month.
$12 a
about
month.
$3 a week.
Right, Jesus Christ.
You worked 56 hours before you got any overtime.
And was there any set overtime you could work, or did they just whatever they felt like?
Well, some ships you join them if a lot of ships. It didn't worry me because I was a deck boy and I didn't have family responsibilities. But older blokes who had families at home and that they would join a ship. Some ships had reputations for being good payers, good overtime, and you could work as much as you could work 24 hours a day if you wanted to, literally.
Yeah.
You know, as a deck boy, you were on deck. You didn't have crew attendants or stewards to look after the crew. There was 4 deck boys in that ship, and 2 of us were Peggies. We used to work at around 2 weeks about. You'd do 2 weeks in the mess room and 2 weeks on deck. And you were basically the mess room steward. You looked after the cleaning it and mopping it, clean all the plates and all that sort of stuff, and for the ABs. Yeah,
right. Yeah. It on your first jobs and that, on them jobs around that time, what was the food and that like on there?
Shit. You were on board of trade. Rations. You got a tin of conioni, which is condensed milk. You went and collected it every week. You got a tin of condensed milk. You got a packet of sugar, a packet of loose tea, and the chief steward would dish out little, like you get in cafes, those little square patters of butter. You get issued with so many of them every day, and that was it. They used to have what they called 3-pot ships. The officers would have, for argument's sake, crayfish. The junior officers would have tinned salmon, and we'd have tins of sardines. That was the best way to describe it.
Or herrings in tomato sauce.
Or herrings in tomato sauce.
Yeah. I don't know what the articles were like across there, but on the Australian articles it used to be sufficient without waste.
Sufficient without waste, yeah. And it all depended on the chief steward. Chief steward, normally the chief steward and the old man, they were into every row.
Yeah.
And the chief steward was normally the richest man on the ship.
Yeah.
Second by the skipper.
Yeah, that's the way it was on the Aussie coast too, mate. Well, in that one there, how long did you get in port?
Well, it all depends. You could go on the Kiwi coast and you could spend three months of the trip on the in port. You might get 2 or 3 weeks in Auckland, same in Wellington, Littleton. You had all the good ports that you look forward to having time in. Same in Melbourne or Sydney or wherever, and you always had the girls aboard the ship, and you always had plenty of grog on board the ship, and
party boats. Yeah.
And of course, your finances didn't stretch to your lifestyle, so there'd be fucking pots of paint being sold to wharfies, and the motors for chipping hammers would be fucking sold, and the blankets off your bunk even were sold sometimes. Anything to get a few bob to go ashore.
Yeah. In those days, mate, what in the line of like soap, linen, and working gear and all that, weather gear did the ship owner provide?
You got, when you joined the ship, well, on that ship, this was before, you got to remember, this was before the 1966 Seaman strike. It changed a bit after that, but you had to sign. You got one blanket, 2 sheets, 2 pillow slips, a knife, fork, spoon, plate, and all that sort of stuff, and you signed for it. And if you didn't have it at the end of the trip, you paid for it. It changed a bit after the 1966 Seaman strike.
Yeah.
But they changed what happens when you made your bunk, which you had to do every morning. You changed the bottom sheet and the top pillow slip every week.
Yeah,
you got one sheet and 1 pillow slip once a week.
And then the top one went to the bottom one,
yeah.
in the vicious circle, yeah.
And your towel, I can't remember now, I think the towels were pretty flippant about towels, because they reckon you could rinse them out yourself and hang them to dry.
Yeah.
So towels were another thing. To ask for an extra towel was like asking for a fucking mortgage for the Bank of fucking New Zealand or something, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What about wet weather gear? They supply that?
No.
No.
No wet weather gear, no working gear, no working gloves.
Yeah.
No working boots, no nothing.
Yeah. Well, with all that there, what made you go to sea?
Oh, family, tradition. I knew a lot of people at sea, you know, just a way of life that I liked, and I just liked the job. I liked the camaraderie, I liked the camaraderie, I liked the people I met.
Yeah.
And I liked the good times, and I liked travelling the world and being paid very little for it.
Yeah. When, now, what year was it you come on the Australian coast?
1970. I jumped ship here from a pommy ship in 1974, and I got away on this coast in 1975. I worked in the Harbour Trust for a while, which was commonly known as the Maltese Navy.
Navy, yeah.
The Melbourne Harbour Trust. And I got away in 1975.
And what was that on?
The Townsville Trader.
Ah, one of my old jobs. What was the difference you noticed between on the Pommy coast and Pommy ships to an Australian? Did you notice much difference?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I walked up the gangway, and I had a couple of mates of mine who had already been away on the coast. One was Neil Halliday, and he was on the Townsville Trader, and I happened to join the ship with somebody who I knew, and I walked into the mess room and I nearly fucking fell over. There was the first thing I saw was in the middle of the table was a big bowl of fresh fruit and apples and bananas and grapes, and I thought, I've walked into the wrong mess room here. This is the saloon or someplace. And I said to Neil, what's going on here? And he said, oh, this is what it's like on the coast.
Yeah.
And then he took me to my cabin. It was the first single berth cabin I'd ever been in. And plus, we had our own toilet and shower, one between two cabins, but yeah. It was still something that you had your own settee, you had a day bed in the cabin. Fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That ship there behind you on the bulkhead there, Wayne, the New Zealand Star, that was one of the newest ships that was ever owned. And it was built for Blue Star Line, which were renowned for shit food and accommodation, but plenty of overtime and money and good ports. And that ship was brand new. It didn't even have a day bed in it.
Yeah.
It was that was the first ship I was on. We had a sink in our cabin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when I was on the Townsville Trade, and I don't know where it was still doing the same when you was there, we were doing 22 ports in 21 days.
I joined it. I've been on it quite a few times, and when I joined it, we were running the Tassie and back.
Yeah.
And I was on it for a while there to get myself established till I got my white card signed. And then times after that, when I joined it, we were running to the west.
Yeah.
I joined it when she first started running to the west.
When
Terry Berman, we were talking about before,
yeah.
he was the postman.
Yeah. Yeah. When I joined it, we were running as far north as Cairns, as far south as Burnie. We did, all the little ports in between, and it was when we were also doing Geelong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when I joined the Melbourne Trade. I was on the Melbourne Trade, and we were doing that run on the Melbourne Trade up to. We joined in Burnie, Port Kamla, Sydney, Newcastle, Brisbane, Port Alma, Mackay, Townsville, Cairns, and then back down again, back down to Burnie. That was the trip. It was, Yeah, it was from Burney up the coast back to Burney was about 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think our longest at sea was Townsville to Port Kembla, and that was probably 2 and a bit days. Because they used to fly them ships. Yeah. 22 knots, something like that. 23, something like that. Yeah. Over your time at sea, mate, you would have come across a few characters. Has any jumped to mind?
Well, I'm talking to one now.
Oh, thanks, mate.
I'm talking to one now. Yes, lots of them. Tex Boucher, one that just comes to mind right now. Gus Guthrie. Oh, fuck.
Couple we just mentioned a while ago. The Gear and Berman.
The Gear, Terry Berman and Johnny Gear. One of the best, I've just been on the phone to there, Peter Greenaway. Billy Dean.
The Silver Fox.
Yeah. I mean, oh shit. Then you had blokes who are long gone now, God rest their soul. You had the Wolfman and so many you'd have to sit down and think about.
Big Freddy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good blokes gone, mate. Yeah. In time at sea, you would have had some good times and some bad times, some highs and lows. Any stick to mind?
I've always had the good. I'm a pretty positive sort of a person, and I've always put a good look on bad situations. But yes, and I think the low times you have at sea when you're married with a family.
Yeah.
And because if anything is going to go wrong, it'll go wrong when you're away at sea.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, an example, I was on one of those gas buggies going up to China, up to Japan, the Northwest Storm Petrel, and I joined that in I can't remember the year now, but it was the same year as the big gas explosion down in Longford.
Yeah.
And Victoria had no gas or no heating or anything like that, no water, no whatever. And I rang home from the ship when I heard about this, and I was told that there's no gas or anything to the houses in Melbourne. And here I'm sitting on a 100,000 ton ship
full of gas,
going to Japan.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like if anything is going to happen while you're in this game, if anything is going to happen while you're in the job, it'll happen while you're away. If the washing machine's going to blow up,
it'll do it.
It'll do it while you're away. You know.
Yeah.
But I think that for every down there's an up, and the people you form a good rapport with your shipmates. There's some people who you'll be lifelong friends with, and there's some people who you'll never want to speak to again in your life.
Right,
and I'm sure that there's a lot of people saying the same thing about me. But basically, it's a job that you either love or you hate.
That's right. Yeah.
And I know people who have gone away to sea and they absolutely fucking hated it. But they were getting good money and good leave, and they'd make the rest of the crowd's life a misery for 6 months of the fucking year because they didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
But they also didn't want to give up the wages and conditions, and I find that very unfair because if you got somebody like that in a ship, they can upset the whole fucking crowd. Yeah. And let's face it, especially blokes who are away from their families and things like that, it can get a bit, especially for long periods of time.
That's right, mate. Yeah. This next question probably be a bit difficult, and we haven't got it down on the list here. But for a bloke who absolutely loved going to sea and that, a couple of years ago, for what happened to you, it must have really, it had to be your biggest downer, I'd say. Yeah.
I had an accident on one of the Bramble ships, the Victorian Reliance. My left arm now is absolutely fucking useless. There was even talk of chopping it off, and it's probably the single biggest thing that happened. Apart from my kids being born, which was good. Yeah. This is probably the worst thing that's happened to me in regards to my job. But I've got to say this, and I said, for every action there's an opposite reaction.
That's right.
I've still kept, even though I'm not going to sea anymore, I'm still a fully paid up member of the union, and I go to as many stop-up meetings as I can, and I keep in contact with as many people as I can. And there's always people dropping in here, and I like to think that even though I'm not actively shipping out, I'm still a seaman.
Yeah. And
I always will be till the day I die.
That's true, mate. That's true. Also, in your time at sea, you would have come across some either near misses or some hits or something like that. Or?
Lots of them, especially working in. What a lot of people don't realise now, you go down to Bass Strait or places like that, and they've got these great big fucking super duper rig tenders, and the safety is so strict that you can't fart on deck without having a gas mask.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when I was down there, not at the beginning, but not long after it sort of kicked off, and the rig tenders were no bigger than harbour tugs.
Yeah.
And you'd be working out there in the Bass Strait in the middle of winter, fucking pulling anchors and fucking doing all sorts of crap that now would be completely illegal, and you'd go home at the end of your 4 weeks or whatever and you'd think, did I really do that? Did I really take those chances? Did I, And the answer is you did, and you did them to get the job done, and you never thought twice about it. I mean, now, not only would you not want to do it, but you wouldn't be allowed to do it.
Yeah.
Especially in the offshore oil industry. And then you got ships like the trader boats running across the Tassie, where it's all go, get as much cargo in as quick as you can. You're down there behind boxes, containers, lashing them, and there's forklifts, wharfies pushing up forklifts. I mean, the chances, which has happened quite regularly over the years in web dock, people have been squashed behind containers.
That happened just before I joined the Townsville Trader. Yeah. 2 of them got killed. They lowered the box. They were sitting down having smogo or something behind the box, and another bloke come along, forklift, container, and lowered them to the top of them.
You don't have to be working in risky. You don't have to work in risky situations like in Bass Strait or the Norway Shelf or wherever.
Yeah.
I think the more dangerous situation you are now, the more you're aware of your situation.
Yeah.
But like with me, when I done this, and I never thought I'd end up like this, but when I had this accident here, all I did was I slipped on the deck and put my hand out to save myself, and that was it.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't have known Tommy Waldron, would you?
Over the west?
Yeah.
I did. He got killed with
Yeah, that's right.
And,
on a rig tender.
And his brother Lou.
Yeah. Lou, good bloke, Lou.
Yeah.
I've still got the shits with the bars.
We were with him when me and you shared a room in Sydney years ago at the convention.
Yeah.
In 1996. Up in Sydney, the Union Convention. We got in the piss with Tommy with Lou Waldron.
Yeah.
Remember that?
That's when he bloody give every other bastard the bloody the winner except me.
Yeah.
Prick.
Yeah.
But he's dead now too, the poor bugger.
Is Lou Waldron dead?
Yeah, he died a couple of years ago, heart attack. Yeah, poor bastard. Good bloke, Lou.
Yeah.
Good bloke, yeah. On shipboard, mate, shipboard disputes or other disputes?
Well, when I went away to sea in 1965, then I was away at sea as a deck boy, and at that time you did 9 months as a deck boy, 9 months as a junior ordnance seaman, 9 months as a senior ordnance seaman, and then you could sit your ticket at 18 to become, this was the rating structure in Pommy ships.
Yeah.
At 18 you'd done your EDH ticket, which was efficient deckhand, and at 21 you were an AB. So basically you served an apprenticeship. But in 1966 we had the National Seaman strike in the UK on home boats, and every home boat in the, it should have been international, but it wasn't, and that was the downfall of the whole thing. But it was only ships in the UK because of the laws of mutiny and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we had a 10-week strike. That was my first introduction into the when I was 1966, 16 of the Seaman's dispute, and that lasted 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And what we ended up getting out of that is we used to have to work a 56-hour week before we got any overtime, and we ended up getting a 48-hour week and 1 day's leave a week, 4 days a month.
Yeah.
Out of that dispute.
Yeah. Any other disputes you can remember being?
Oh, being in loads of them, over the years. Not big or not small. None of them major things. Just stuff that I think a lot of disputes that I've been involved in were caused by industrial officers who wanted to make a name for themselves. Who I think myself that the reason companies have industrial officers is not to solve problems, is sometimes to create things, because if everything is running along smoothly and there's no disputes,
they haven't got a job.
They haven't got a job. There's no reason to have an industrial officer, is there, I mean, I remember that Townsville trader we're talking about. That was laid up down in Victoria Dock for about 2 years or something.
Yeah.
And everything was still on it, you know, they never just stopped, boom, tied the ship up and that was it. And then they picked it up to start running to the west. And Jeff Swain was with us, he got lost at sea. Union Jack,
Yeah.
can't remember his name, he died too. He was
Jack
there.
Davey.
Jack Davey.
Yeah.
He was there. Phil McNamara, Terry Berman, there was a whole heap of good people there, and we took the ship from Victoria Dock round to Webb Dock, and tried to start getting the accommodation cleaned up. And this is just an example of industrial officership, if you want to use that word. And the mattresses and the linen had all just been left there. The accommodation stunk and the mattresses were rotten, so the company went up the road and got all brand new mattresses. But you got to remember that when we got all this, sewed it up top, they never had to open their mouth for nothing.
That's right.
We opened our mouth and they got it.
Yeah.
We got it it just flowed on. The same with pay rises and everything else and leave and all the rest of it. And we got everything we wanted. New linen, fucking all the rest of it. In the mess room, in the pantry in the mess room where the Peggies used to do the washing up, there was a sink about the size of a little basin like that. And the Peggies thought, well, now that you're doing these repairs, all the burny board, all the wood, the chipboard under the sink where it had been laid up for 2 years, had all gone rotten and it stunk and all that sort of stuff. So I remember Billy Hughes, another good man, passed away to that great big ship in the sky.
Fiddler's Green.
Yeah. He sort of said, well look, you're putting all this new fucking board in and backing and tiles and all that. Why not get a brand new double sink, you know?
Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't come at that.
Yeah.
They'd come at mattresses the whole lot. And this sink was probably worth, you could buy one in Bunnings now for about $25 or something. And we were in dispute over that. Because the industrial officers come down and we had meetings on board the ship and they'd go back to the office and see what we can do. In the meanwhile, you've got a ship with a full fucking crew waiting to load cargo for the west, being held up over a sink because we didn't have proper cleaning facilities in the mess room pantry. Well, eventually, after 4 or 5 days or whatever, they come to the party. We got the new sink, and lo and behold, the officers' pantry up top, they got a brand new sink too, without even having to, And they're the ones who are talking to us and telling us how we're holding the company to ransom and all the rest of it. And that's been from day one that I ever want to say. You've got the doers and you've got the parasites. Yeah. And I've got to say that, and I'm not anybody who's going to see this tape and has got plans of going up top in the future. I'm not having a go at everybody, but I can assure you that anything that you have on this coast, whatever meal you're eating now, I'm looking straight in this camera saying this, whatever you're eating and enjoying, whatever cabin you're in and enjoying your double bunk and your television and your video recorder and your fridge in your cabin, you should get down on your knees every night and pray to whatever God you've got that a union got it for you. And in this case it was the SUA, which is now the MUA.
That's right, mate, that's right. Just offhand, can you remember who the industrial officer was? It wasn't our beloved Ros, was it?
At that time?
Yeah.
For ANL? That was ANL.
Yeah.
No, it was a bloke called... he ended up being... because at that time ANL was...
Not Openshaw.
That's him, Openshaw.
Yeah.
He ended up... At that time ANL...
That's where Ros got her training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that time ANL was a government entity. They were all civil servants.
Yeah.
And he ended up being done for... remember in Webb Dock for corruption. He was selling jobs to dockers that P's and D's that weren't doing it, you know.
Yeah.
So he was the one that complained to us about what we were doing right and wrong, and he was at the back of it all. He was getting backhanders from the P's and D's for employing people that weren't there. Yeah,
that's when Ros took over his job.
Ros Lowe. First experience with her was Ros Lowe. I picked up the Konus in Japan. Brand spanking new. I was the delegate on it, and at that time the stewards had a big dispute. There was a lot of stewards on the ship and they wanted to reduce the manning, and we picked the ship up, and when we got back to Geelong the ship was immediately in dispute by the stewards, and that's her and what's his name from TT Line, he was her offsider, Woods.
Jeff Woods. Yeah.
a nice pair of fucking arseholes, both of them.
So she sort of give it to you, eh? Yeah, yeah. I've had me run-ins with Ros and that. Stop work meetings.
What about them?
The difference between stop work meetings when you first went to sea and now.
Well, now, what do you mean now at this time now?
Yeah.
Well, when I first went to sea, when I first went to sea on homeboats, after the 1966 Seaman strike, that's when they first started the convener system at sea,
Yeah.
which was like a delegate. Up till that, we didn't have delegates or anything.
Yeah.
And the convener system started after 1966, and it was starting from scratch on homeboats, and it was reasonably new. And to tell you the truth, a lot of people didn't put a lot of faith in it. But the blokes who were the conveners, they tried to do their best.
Yeah.
But when I come on this coast, and I met Roger Wilson and Bert Nolan, and I thought, I've just entered a brand new world here, and which I was glad I did too. And the first stop or meeting I went to was in Unity Hall in Collins Street, I think it is, in the city.
Yeah, Unity Hall, I know where. Yeah.
Up opposite Spencer Street Station.
Yeah, it's no longer
Railway
there.
Unity Hall.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get in.
Yeah, that's right.
You couldn't get in. They were queued up outside, and it was always like that. And that's why we got things, because we get up there, if we had anything, whatever we had to say about anybody or any complaints or anything, the forum was always a stop or meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, I go to meetings now, and
Same old faces.
if it wasn't for, I still classify myself as being an active member of the union, but if it wasn't for the retired members up the front, sometimes it's sad. And it's sad that young fellas, and I'm not having a go at anybody here, but young fellas who can walk up the gangway of a ship and accept everything they have and don't even think where it come from. And I've had numerous talks with young fellas and tried to explain to them this, and they don't seem to give a fuck.
Yeah.
All they want to do is do their month and get home.
That's
And
right.
That's a bit sad.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I won't mention any names, but this one particular bloke, my kids, when they were going to St. Joe's School down here in Chelsea, this person who turned out she ended up being a friend of my wife's, and my ex-wife, I should say, and she said to my wife, "What does your husband do? I see him here picking up the kids all the time, and then I don't see him for ages." And my ex-wife, who was also a steward at sea, she was at sea herself, she told this woman, this Mary Ann, that I'm a seaman. And this Mary Ann told her that her husband was an ex-seaman. He'd been in the Navy, which is not really a seaman anyway, but he'd been in the Navy, and he had to get out because of family reasons, and he'd love to get back to sea and all the rest of it. And could I help them in any way?
Wasn't a bloke who spewed in me car by any chance, was it?
It most certainly was.
Yeah.
We won't mention no names.
No.
But this bloke was the greatest disappointment. He come round here, the first night I met him, he lobbed round here in this lounge room here with a bottle of scotch and a case of beer under his arm, and he told me how delighted he was to get back. He'd love to get back to sea, and that the sea was in his blood, and he respected the trade union movement, and this is the career he wanted in his life and all that. So I took him in to see the officials, and we were still the SUA at the time.
Yeah.
And he eventually got down to college and got away. And I should have realised something was wrong when he was down at the college. I rang home here one night. I would forget. I might have been on the Osco Star.
Yeah.
And I rang home, and my ex-wife said to me, "I think we've made a mistake here." She said, "That bloke,
Yeah. That we're not going to mention.
That we're not going to mention.
Yeah.
He's home on compo from the college," and that was the start of it.
Yeah. He's not well thought of.
No. And I've never since the initial first or second time I've taken to a meeting, I've never seen him since.
Yeah.
Now he's got the big house up in wherever he lives now, and all the shit gear that goes with it, the fucking fountain in the front yard and all that, and he doesn't give a stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right, mate. Yeah.
And I found out too that for about 2 years he was unfinancial.
Yeah, that's right. You were telling me something about that a couple of years. Yeah. He's based somewhere now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I won't mention the ship, but he's posting on one of those big ferries.
Yeah. Won't mention that it's the Spirit of Tasmania. No,
Yeah.
I won't either.
No.
Mate, before you come on the coast in '72, there was something that my personal opinion is the greatest thing that ever happened to Australian merchant seamen was Pat Garrity's little baby, the SRF.
We never had none of that in home boats.
No, but how's that affected you since you come on the coast?
Well,
It would have been.
I mean, the SRF is the SRF is. Well, I know. I mean, I'm here and I've got my own house and that, but I know that my kids, you know, I mean, I'm secure and they're secure.
Yeah.
And I remember when I come on the coast soon after the SRF started, and I think we were paying, I forget how much, it might have been $2.60 a week or something like that. I forget how much it was.
Yeah, it's $2.75 or something like that. Yeah.
And our union made it compulsory, but the other unions didn't. And I remember we'd be in the roster there, we'd all go to the pub after the roster in the city, and I forget, the old London Inn, I think it was called, we used to go to, and there'd be all the stewards there and all that, and we'd be talking about the SRF, and they'd say, what's back in $2.75?
Yeah.
I mean, I won't even buy you a beer. And a lot of the stewards didn't make it compulsory.
A lot of ABs didn't either. They didn't get into it too.
They had to though. The union made it compulsory.
Yeah, but they didn't. When it first started off, they didn't have to.
Yeah, but then it was made.
Yeah, then it was made compulsory. But a lot of them said the same thing. What the fuck should I get into this for? You know, you can get more out of a bloody pot of beer than that. Yeah.
And I know one steward in particular now who's had a stroke and he's living in some home or something in Richmond, and he never got into it, and he was absolutely anti-SRF.
Yeah.
And I think that if he had his chance again, he'd be thinking differently now.
Yeah.
But I think that it's the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
And of course the ship owners didn't like that, because that took a lot of, they would have liked to have run that.
Yeah.
I mean, think of the money that's in there now.
Oh, shit.
And if the ship owners or the government had control of that.
Yeah.
That's, money is power, isn't it?
That's right, mate. That's right. Well, we're getting quite near the end of it, Sean. What was your last job, mate?
Victorian Reliance.
How many in the crew on her?
From the skipper down, 16.
16.
6 IRs, chief cook and steward, 4 on the bridge and 4 engineers.
And what type of ship was she?
A roll-on roll-off container ship.
And she just ran from here to Tassie?
Yeah.
As I said, mate, that's about it. Have you got anything else? Any comments you want to add or anything?
Well, you've asked me quite a while ago for this video thing and this thing, and I don't know who's going to be watching it in the future, but whoever it is, I assume it'll be younger members because you're going around all the old bastards. But
us mature people, mate.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is, you've got, for young members who are coming into this industry or in this industry and thinks that nothing will ever happen to them because of company employment, they're secure and all that. Well, just tell all the people who worked at fucking Blundstone Shoes down at Tassie.
Yeah.
Tell the people who worked here and there, and they're all going to China. There's nothing whatsoever, and it's happened already on this coast with a couple of ships that changed the port of registry from Melbourne to fucking Nahotka or whatever, and traded around the coast with overseas seamen.
That's right.
No matter what, a lot of you guys, young guys, you might have trades that you can go back to and all that, but a lot of you haven't. And unless you stick together, you're fucked. It's as simple as that. And that's, I can't get, in seafaring language, I can't get any plainer than that. Divided, you're fucked. United, you're not.
That's right, mate, that's right.
And that's it.
And as you said before, the ship owners never ever give us anything.
They've never given nothing. And I can tell you this much now, on that Victorian Reliance, I joined that ship and it was nice accommodation, and I heard some young fellas, oh look at this, it's marvellous now. It looks good, and the company didn't give it to you. That was designed, all that accommodation was designed with the aid of union officials and all the rest of it, and different members of the crew put their 2 bobs worth in. But it was stuck together very cheaply, and you know, I mean, it's not very good having a nice looking cabin when the bloke in the next cabin, if he farts, he can wake you up in the middle of the night, or you can't turn on your radio in your cabin to listen to the news because it wakes somebody 2 cabins down. And this is what they're doing now. They're making ships that look all right and keep everybody happy. And if you've been used to living in shit, and then you go into sort of something that looks, you know, good. Why complain? And that's what they're hoping about.
That's right.
Why complain about anything?
Yeah, as my old man said years ago, he said the ship owner started off as a pirate, and they're still pirates.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
That's how they started.
Yeah, that's right, mate. They did too. Okay, mate.
That's it.
Unless you got anything else you want to add, that's just about it.
Just that whoever is watching this, you've got to fucking keep up the banner of trade union is the banner of unity, or you're gone.
That's right.
It's as simple as that.
Oh, no, there is one thing, because I'm going off an old list of questions here, and we're modifying it all the time. The Seaman's Union, mate. What did it mean to you, and also what effect did going to sea have on your family?
The Seaman's Union, to me, which is now the MUA, was a brotherhood, and I'll give you an example of that brotherhood. When I first come here, I've been married twice. My first missus, this is the time before you could go to ATM machines and all that.
Yeah.
And we were driving up for a holiday. We were driving up to the Gold Coast. This is I think it was in the late 70s. And our car broke down, and we had to get it repaired. And the money we had in our pocket, we had money in the bank, but the money we had in our pocket we used to pay for the repairs. And we arrived in Sydney. We wanted to spend Easter in Sydney, but we had no money or anything. And we were sort of, well, what's going to happen now? We'll sleep in the car for the weekend. But we was driving in Sydney. I saw the Seaway Prince, or the Princess, I think it was, tied up there at Piermont. And I knew a couple of blokes on there. Tommy Lowe, who's now passed away, was a steward on there. And Johnny Cooper was the bosun. Johnny Cooper from Hobart. And I can't imagine any other job you could do this in. I really can't imagine any other job you could do, or any other situation you could do this in. And I said to my ex-missus, hang on a minute, drove down the wharf, Easter weekend, I think it was Good Friday or whatever. I went into the bar, there's Johnny Cooper and the boys sitting there having a beer, and I said to Cooper, I explained to my situation, I said, can I borrow some money off your rolling fund? And when I get back to Melbourne and you're in Melbourne, no worries, how much do you want? I lent us how much I forget how much it was at the time, which was a lot of money then, $200 or $300. And we went on our merry way and continued our holidays, and the banks opened and after the Easter holidays, and everything was happy and all the rest of it. But I've always thought to myself, if I was working in a factory making car tires or something, and I went on a holiday and the same thing happened to me in the car tire factory in Sydney, could I have walked in there and said, well, I work in the car tire factory in Melbourne, can you let me some? They'd fucking laugh at you. And there was no questions asked or anything. Johnny Cooper, the fact that the matter that I was in the SUA and they knew me, that was it.
Yeah. And
that's a thing that's always stuck in my mind. You know?
Yeah.
But then seamen we always sort of try and stick together too, you know what I mean?
That's right, mate, that's right. And what effect does going to sea had on your life?
Well,
your family life?
Well, me and my wife separated, and we're still good. We're still married, but we're separated. We've been separated now for fucking 8 years. But we still see each other. She lives up the bush. I live here. That's a good marriage, you know.
Wonder if Michelle would say the same thing.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
I think that any job where you're separated, it's got some effect on your marriage.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it doesn't even. Women have got to be very strong because, well, they're both mother and father, aren't they?
That's right.
You know, I mean, and as I said before, they've got to be mother, father. They've got to be mechanic. They've got to be laundry mistress. They've got to do the housework. They've got to be the counsellor of the kids. Something go wrong, and what seemed like a minor problem to you, when you ring up home and you're talking and you ask what's been happening through the day, and something that might seem, you know, a major disaster to you, that the beer's not cold in the bar or something.
Yeah.
You know, other stuff has been happening at home, and you've got to appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's right.
And it's easy to say, oh well, you know, it's easy to complain, but when you're in a situation where you're stuck by yourself with a couple of kids or something, it's a different thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
And we've all got that experience.
Yeah, that's true.
But my kids are all grown up now, so it's a different thing.
Yeah.
And Fast Eddie.
Lord Worcestershire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fast Eddie, for anybody who doesn't know, he was a character on this coast. He was probably one of the wealthiest men on this coast.
Not probably, I think he was.
But he wouldn't spend a cent. And fucking amazing. The first time I met Fast Eddie, I was in a place called Santos in Brazil. And actually when he died, I wrote a letter to the journal about this. And I was on a homeboat. Now I just told you what the food and conditions were like in fucking homeboats.
Yeah.
I mean, you got one bread roll a day and that was it, and they measured out everything.
Yeah.
And we were all sitting in the fucking... one thing about homeboats, there was always plenty of piss in them. I think their attitude was, keep them pissed, they'll do anything sort of thing,
Yeah.
Well, the ones I was on, and this fucking bloke come on board and he said, "G'day, covers." This is in Santos in Brazil. We said, "How are you going?" He said, "I'm on that Danish ship." Now, Danish ships always had a good reputation for food and conditions and that.
Yeah.
He said, "I'm on that Danish ship up ahead of you, that little reefer ship." He said, "It's an owner skipper." He said that the skipper also owns it. And he said, "I was wondering if you'd give us a feed." He come aboard a fucking homeboat for a feed. This is a my brother's death.
Yeah.
And we said, "Well, are you sure you're not mixed up, you know?"
Yeah.
He said, "No." He said, "Anything, you know." Well, the favourite salad out at night on homeboats was that was it every night, was a big bowl of fucking beetroot and fucking chopped up onions. That was the salad.
Yeah.
That was the preferred salad, because it was probably the cheapest and easiest. So Fast Eddie fucking proceeded to make about a half a dozen sandwiches of fucking beetroot and onions. And he was telling us that the ship he was on, because it was the owner skipper, he'd lock everything up at night, the food was the minimum, and he'd turn off the generators at night to save money, and the fucking oil lamps in the cabins and all this sort of thing. And that was it. We all went up the road, got in the piss, had a bit of a naughty with those lovely Brazilian girls, done all that sort of business. And then we went down the South American coast, went back to London. And at that time, because you didn't get any leave, what we were talking about before, you got very minimum leave. You'd only go home when you could afford, I'm talking about back to Ireland, when you could afford to take time off to go home. So there was a place in London called Anchor House, which was like a seaman's mission sort of thing. And a lot of the young fellas would stop there, have a couple of days on the piss and a big party or whatever before you'd ship out. And I was in Anchor House in London, and I'm standing, it was a lovely bar, and I was standing there having a beer in the bar at Anchor House before it goes out in the night for the town for the night. And I got this tap on the shoulder, and I was, "G'day, cover. How you going?" And it was Fast Eddie. Yeah. And we had a bit of a fun with him and all the rest of it, and got in the piss, and I never saw him again. And then when I come here, I jumped ship here, and my first ship, Townsville Trader, I walked up the gangway, and there's Fast Eddie standing behind the bar. Yeah. And me and him got on, we were always mates from there on, Yeah. But he was definitely a character.
Were you with him on the Oscar?
No, I was with him on the Seaway in Melbourne when we made him bosun, and he turned into a fiend.
Yeah, on the Oscar.
I was with him on a rig tender where we joined a far supplier up in Singapore. There was me, young Kavanagh, Robbie Kavanagh. It was me, Robbie Kavanagh. Was a Hopkins. Fast Eddie, and I think it was young Charlie Weldon. Oh yeah. And Eddie wanted to be a cook, and the first meal after we left Singapore, he was going to have boiled spuds and meat for lunch, and he put the spuds in about 4 minutes to 12. He thought they'd boil in about 4 minutes. So he said, no, you got to cook them for whatever, He said, oh, fair enough. He said, oh, I'll just make chips then. And we said, fair enough. So you want to get all these bags of chips?
Now, on the Oscar, he sat down for lunch one day apparently and had what he thought was soup. And he went into Bernie and said, that was a bloody good drop of soup, Bernie.
Gravy.
And Bernie's looked across and he's gone, fucking away all me gravy.
Yeah.
He'd had 2 plates of gravy.
I was with him he was with me down at the college.
Yeah.
And at the end, you know, they called him Superman in the end.
Yeah.
Because he used to for dinner every night, he'd have about fucking 10 bowls of soup.
Yeah.
And what we all did at the end was, you know, when we had the big piss up at the end of the school,
Yeah.
Some of the boys were walking around, they had a look at all these antique shops in Launceston,
Yeah.
and they found a big piss pot, you know, the old piss pots?
Yeah.
And they bought it and they gave it to Eddie as a soup bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he still had it when he died.
Yeah,
Big old, you know, the big old piss pots with a hand, looked like a big fucking mug, you know.
Fucking last time I seen him, mate, was he'd just come back off the Flinders and he said, I got a little bit of food poisoning in Singapore. I thought, fucking looking at him, because you know how big he was, and his bloody belt was about a foot to 18 inches overlapping around his waist. When I was looking at him, I thought, you've got more than fucking food poisoning, mate.
Well, the last time I saw him was at a meeting in Melbourne, and Stockport meeting, and there was this old bloke sitting in front of me with a beanie and and he had scraggy hair.
It was Eddie.
I didn't recognise him until he opened his mouth.
Yeah, there's always a toss up to see if you're going to see him at the next stop, meeting the poor bastard.
But you know, but I'd met his mum and dad and that, you know.
Yeah, I met him at the funeral. I went down to.
You lived down here in something, but before I moved down here, when I broke up with my first missus, I had a house in Balaclava, which is East St Kilda, whatever you want to call it, and that was one fucking hell of a party house, I'll tell you. I was there by myself, and Peter Foster was my lodger there for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And we used to have some parties, especially after meetings. We'd all go back there and end up in the Elstonwick pub or whatever.
Yeah.
Fucking, the point was that after the pub shut, not like it is now where they're open all the time and clubs they close at 10 o'clock, they all come back to my place and get in the piss, and everybody wanted a feed. So what I did was, the Monday before the stop-up meeting, I got 2 dozen of these big fucking sausages and I cooked them all up.
Yeah.
And I put them in the fridge, and the idea was that when I come home from the meeting, I was going to make a big pot of fucking, I cooked up the rice and make a big pot of fucking curried sausages and rice so that people could have a feed. Well, we all got back to my place after being on the piss in the city. This is about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and Fast Eddie was with us, and he's fat, or so he said. So we're all going to carry on down the Elston Hotel on the piss, because we all drank in there. We had our own table and everything in there. And Eddie said to me, Sean, I feel fat. He said, you don't mind if I lay on your settee for an hour or so, and I'll join you later on, you know.
Yeah.
He said, I'm buggered. So I said, no, go for your life. So I fell asleep on the fucking on the settee. We all went down the pub, and by about 8:30 or 9 o'clock, we're all fucked, you know. So we're heading back to my place. By this time, there's about 4 or 5 of us left. So we jumped in a taxi, went back to my place, and I walked in the lounge room, and there's Eddie sitting there watching the telly with a real big fucking guilty look on his face, you see. And I said to the boys, "Are anybody hungry? I have a beer, anybody hungry?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm just going to fucking take me 10 minutes. I've got all everything mixed, I just got to heat it up." I went down, he had 2 fucking dozen fucking big sausages. He had the fucking lot of them.
Yeah, that'd be Eddie.
Yeah. Once he knew where you lived, you know, he's you'd be sitting here, and next thing he'd turn up at your front door, you know, he's a fucking good bloke, but he's a character.
Yeah, that was
you know, as I say, like, there's loads of people who you can, it's only when you get talking to somebody, you mention people, and then